My point is the Nazaritism, not to be confused with Nazarenism. I heard someone say he called the Nazarite the Nazarene. Nazarene is the literal translation of the Notzri, the rabbinic term for a Christian. So this was a common practice when people kept Tuban Tara. Earlier, I was saying we have to learn Tuban Tara. First, learn to keep the basic standards that the Torah prescribes for Am Yisrael as a people involved with the temple. Am Yisrael as a people have to be involved with Truma on a regular basis. They give the priestly portion, of course, to the priests, and challah to the priests, and the priests are supposed to eat it. So that requires us to have a basic familiarity and practical experience with Tuman Tara. And then we also have to go to the temple on a regular basis. Everybody has to eat a Korban Pesach once a year. Once we get that down and we understand how to keep the basic laws of Tuman Tara, which sanctify us, I think then we'll have people who are ready to take the next step and take on Nazaritism. Be able to actually take on the next batch of Isurim that involves. But until Am Yisrael is practicing that, then it shouldn't be done. That's why you had Rav Kook's Talmud became the Nazir. Rav Kook himself had a very parish. He was very set aside. He was very ascetic in his lifestyle, and the Nazir himself was already had that tendency. So he was a unique individual. Have regular people nowadays just adopt that without even having the slightest concept of what it means to be apart and keep oneself tahor on a regular basis. It's just wrong. Lama davar domeh, the rabbis who discuss vegetarianism, they say even if there is this Kabbalistic stream approach that vegetarianism isn't ideal, the Rav has spoken out against this. And once again, the Nazir, the Rav Kook's Talmidim became vegetarians. The Vilna himself didn't eat meat all the time, but then again, he ate on Shabbos. Just a little bit. But the point is, the people say no, entirely vegetarians. So Rav Sharav Shiv Kohen himself, who was the Nazir's son, and himself continued this tradition of vegetarianism, said to demand of Am Yisrael, like there's certain leftists in America say, yes, the right thing is ethically, it's wrong to eat meat. Am Yisrael we should all become vegetarians or even vegans nowadays. They're wrong because we're not ready for that yet. First, we have to get, even if you're correct, that's an ideal, a messianic ideal, which could be in Rav Kook's thought. Okay, it's an interesting idea. We're not ready for that yet because we still haven't even understood what humanity is about. The problem with too many of these vegetarians and vegans that they say is that they care more about animals than they do about people, which means it's more about hostility to other people than it is caring for animals. And by the way, you're talking to someone who's basically a vegetarian, also sympathizer. And because of these types of things that I'm preaching now, I've even caused some family members, vegetarians in my own house. And like I said, I'm sympathetic to it. I've drastically reduced my own intake of animal products in the last years. And also, I've also taken upon myself, by the time I get to age 50, I'll definitely have to cut back just for my own health. But I don't think it's right now that people take this because we're just not ready for it. Okay. Ironically, wasn't I saying it just an hour ago? Not even. Oh, Am Yisrael is ready for the Beis Hamikdash. We have to go ahead with this. But vegetarianism, we're not ready for that. Yes, because Am Yisrael was commanded to have a Beis Hamikdash. I know we're ready for it because that's what God wants of us. But the vegetarian thing, as far as I could tell, God still wants us to eat meat. How do I know that? Because He's obligated us at least once a year to eat meat, if not 3 times a year. So until somehow you find a way out of that, and I don't know, you're not going to tell me that God doesn't want you to actually keep those mitzvahs because He did give us those mitzvahs. So that's how I could say it. Am Yisrael is not ready for the vegetarian idea just yet, just like Am Yisrael is not ready for taking on Nazaritism. That doesn't mean there aren't individuals today for whom this might be actually a good thing. I can imagine there are some people who are exceptional individuals who are already familiar with Tuman Tara and actually ascribe to these high personal standards themselves, and they go to mikveh regularly and they avoid all these things. They're mamish what Chazal called chaverim. Doesn't mean friends. It means those who. Hold on one second. I'm going to readmit someone, but I don't think it's for the common people just yet. And also it causes problems because if they do not allow us to bring sacrifice, then everybody who takes on a minimum nazirus might be stuck being a nazir a lot longer. So this fellow I met last year in Nissan, so he became a nazir. So he's waiting. His basic term is over apparently, but he's gonna have to wait until they allow the temple service to go ahead for him to, do the whole shave his head and offer sacrifice and go back to drinking wine. Okay, the Nazir ended up being a Nazir the rest of his life. I don't know how long he took it upon himself,